Hey everyone, I'm Joe Cannon and welcome to Joe Cannon Health episode number 17. If this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. I bring these episodes to you every Friday morning, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast from so you don't miss any of the good stuff we'll be talking about from week to week. Because we sometimes talk about some weighty issues like the topic today, I like to remind everyone that I'm not a doctor, or nurse, or pharmacist, or dietitian. And as the joke goes, I don't play them on TV either. Rather, my degrees are in exercise science. I've got a master's degree in exercise science and an undergrad degree in chemistry and biology. Basically, that means for all the things we talk about, science is my litmus test. I like to look at the science of the things that we talk about and bring it to your attention minus all the jargon you might hear elsewhere. My motto is basically this: no hype, no spin, just the facts in plain English. Now, while I'm pretty interested in everything related to health and fitness, some things get my attention more than others. For example, for over 20 years, I've been investigating dietary supplements, helping people save money, sorting fact from fiction, and basically, just trying to make things more understandable because some of these things are kind of expensive, and I like you to know where you put your money at. You can find all my reviews at my main website of supplements, which is just supplementclarity.com. That's where I've probably got, 300 or 400 reviews posted so far. And then the other topic that I'm pretty passionate about is exercise-induced rhabdomyolysis. Basically, I wrote the first book literally ever on this topic. It's a very serious medical topic, often misunderstood by people. And if you've never heard of the condition, don't feel bad. I've written an awful lot about it on my main website, joe-cannon.com. And if you jump back to episodes 7 and 13, I talk at length about rhabdomyolysis there as well. In addition to all that, I'm a speaker in the health and wellness sphere, and I also conduct educational seminars for those in the fitness industry. So that's basically me in a nutshell. If you want to know more, you can always check the About pages at either of my websites, joe-cannon.com or supplementclarity.com, which go into a lot more detail. I just like to say stuff like that from time to time because I know there's a lot of podcasts out there, and I know your time is valuable. I basically just want you to know who's at the other end of the sounds you're hearing right now. So hopefully that little description there gave you an idea more about me. All right, enough about all that stuff. Before we go any further, I want to basically give a thank you to 2600 HP, who gave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts recently. Basically, 2600 HP said, I found Joe's podcast by accident after watching his YouTube videos first. I was surprised by the quality of his very well-researched podcast. He not only knows what he's talking about, he also cited lots of research papers, which I really like. Also, his podcasts don't have tons of fillers and intro music yet, which is super refreshing compared to most other popular health and biohacking podcasts out there. Keep up the good work, and I'll always be listening. Hey, 2600 HP, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to write those really nice words. About the intro music, I'm with you on that. I talked at length about the lack of intro music in my podcast. I think it was episode number 1 or 2. Basically, I'm with you. Most of the podcast I listen to, which is quite a lot, I don't have a lot of good things to say about the intro music for them. They're either too loud, too long, or I just don't care for them that much. I think I can only probably pick 1 or 2 podcasts that I actually enjoy the intro music to them. So while I'd never say no, odds are I'm probably never going to do intro music, so you have nothing to worry about. So I appreciate your feedback, and your words are greatly appreciated very much. So thank you. Now, like we do every week here, let's start off things by talking about the myth of the week. And what I want to talk about this week is of interest, I think, to anybody who works out, and that is, do you need a sports drink while you're exercising? So these sports drinks, you see them all the time. They're in stores. They're everywhere. They're sold in gyms. They're popular with people who work out. Most of these drinks are combinations of sugars and electrolytes like potassium and sodium. They're usually going to be non-carbonated. They taste really good. That's because they've got sugar in them. And those two traits, not being non-carbonated and tasting good, those are really important, because if they taste good, we're more likely to consume them and consume them a lot during exercise. And that's quite important, because we know that even a 2% drop in your body fluids can lead to clinical dehydration. And that's important because if you're dehydrated, that's going to lead to a decrease in exercise performance. So while 2% doesn't sound like much, let's look at it from another angle. What is 2% of your body weight? This is pretty easy to find out. Just take your body weight and multiply it by 0.02. 0.02, 2% are the same thing. When you multiply your body weight by 0.02, that's going to tell you the number of pounds that you'd have to lose to be dehydrated. So, for example, suppose you weighed 160 pounds. 2% of that is 3.6 pounds. So if you weighed 160 pounds, you'd have to lose 3.6 pounds to be clinically dehydrated. Well, do you think you lost almost 4 pounds during your last workout? I'm betting most people probably didn't lose that much weight during their workout. So do you need a sports drink or not? The idea here is I've got two guidelines here if you want to decide if a sports drink is right for you. Number one, this is the easy way. If your workout lasted less than 1 hour, water is fine for you. It's all you need is water. If your workout, on the other hand, was more than 60 minutes, well, maybe it's time to consider a sports drink. Now, that's one way to consider it, just basically on the length of time you're exercising. Another way which you can consider whether you need a sports drink or not is to think about the acronym HIT, H-I-T. So HIT, H-I-T, stands for hot, intense, and time-consuming. Hot, intense, and time-consuming. So the idea here is if the activity you're doing is intense, it occurs in a hot environment, and it takes you a long time to do, well, then maybe a sports drink might be better than water. Now, that said, remember that, even though I said hot environment, you can become dehydrated even in non-hot environments. So for me, intense and time-consuming are the really big things to pay attention here. Again, hot can play a role, but you can even be dehydrated in the cold. So even in winter, you could be dehydrated. So intense and time-consuming are, in that acronym, be the ones that I would pay attention to most. So before opting for an expensive sports drink, by the way, it also contains calories, consider what your workout is like. My guess is since most people don't work out more than 1 hour, sports drinks may not be something you actually need, unless maybe you're a group exercise instructor who's teaching a whole bunch of classes back to back. In that case, maybe, that's something you might want to consider. So do you need a sports drink or not? It's really up to you. I think most people probably don't need it. But if you have other ideas on this, definitely send me an email. But that's my take on sports drinks. I don't think most people need them. All right, so enough for the myth of the week. Let's turn our attentions to the meat of the podcast this week. And this is going to be a compound that I think you're going to be hearing a lot of in the near future. It's called BPC 157, BPC 157. I want to talk about the research on this and give you an idea of whether it's right for you. Now, right off the bat, what is it? What does BPC stand for? BPC stands for Body Protecting Complex. Body Protecting Complex. If you've actually read the research on this stuff, you may see it listed as pentadecapeptide 157, or sometimes other studies may even call it by another more complicated name, PL 14736. Okay, right off the bat, I want you to know that 9 out of 10 research studies are going to call it BPC 157. But, as I delved into this, I saw these other names and I wanted to bring your attention just in case, they might confuse anybody. Most people call it BPC 157. So right off the bat, if you're saying to yourself, Joe, what the heck are you talking about? Don't feel bad if you've never heard of BPC 157 before. I think you're in probably pretty good company. I think most people probably haven't heard of it yet. So what is it? Essentially it's a compound that I think has been flying below the radar of most people, except those who work out intensely. Weightlifters, power lifters, shot putters, real athletes like that. For the athletes, BPC 157 is a compound that's supposed to heal their tendon and ligament injuries faster. If you can heal these injuries faster, well, this can help the athletes return to the playing field or the gym more quickly. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to bring this to your attention is I've been seeing this stuff pop up a lot on social media, so I think it's only a matter of time before you do as well. So what I want to do in our time together this week is look at some of the research on BPC 157 and put it in its proper perspective to help you decide if it's right for you. What is BPC 157? Well, as I said, it's body protecting complex or compound, and it is essentially it's a peptide that has been isolated from the digestive secretions of the stomach. And I call it a peptide because it's a very tiny protein. Peptides and proteins, they're basically the same thing. A peptide is, again, take a step back. Proteins are made of amino acids, right? Makes sense. They are. So a peptide is a small protein. Generally, a peptide contains anywhere from 2 to maybe 50 different amino acids. Anything above 50 amino acids is called a protein. So a peptide is a tiny protein. BPC 157 is a peptide. It's only 15 amino acids long. This is a compound that's been around a long time. The first paper I uncovered on this dates back to 1994. So it's been around a while. But in all that time, it's touted to do a bunch of different things. So BPC 157 is sometimes called a pleiotropic compound. That's the word of the day, pleiotropic. Essentially, pleiotropic means it's got apparently many different effects in the body. So again, as you go through the day, see how many times you can work pleiotropic into your conversations. Not too many probably, but here are some of the things that BPC 157 is claimed to do. As I mentioned, healing up injuries, specifically injuries to tendons and ligaments. It's also sometimes touted to reduce muscle soreness, that pain you feel after exercise the next day or two. Some have claimed that it may help depression, ulcers, maybe even reducing inflammatory bowel disorder, or IBS, inflammatory bowel syndrome, and some have even rumored that it may be even cardioprotective. So there's where you get the idea of it being pleiotropic. Those are pretty diverse claims for this one molecule. And it all sounds pretty impressive. But how does it do all this stuff? How does it do things such as healing tendons and ligaments to helping depression? Well, at the end of the day, I don't think anybody can give you the exact answer of all this. There doesn't appear to be just one mode of action. As I looked through the research on BPC 157, I saw lots of different potential modes of action, such as helping us make new blood vessels. Perhaps it seems to help by ramping up our production of nitric oxide, and it may even increase receptors for growth hormone, human growth hormone. But, it all sounds great, but at the end of the day, it appears to have multiple mechanisms of action. It's just, if it does work, it doesn't just seem to work by only one mechanism. It appears to have different vectors of action here. So what's the evidence for BPC 157? That's the real thing that I think people should be thinking about, because the claims I see on websites are pretty impressive, but I like to go to the research and again, try to help you understand what the research is saying. Well, if we look at tendons and ligaments, injuries, because that's where a lot of athletes and people who work out ask me questions about this stuff. So what's the evidence for this? Well, there was a study, again, came out in 2011. Researchers basically took the Achilles tendon cells from rats and they bathed them in BPC 157, or they didn't get any BP 157. And they noted that these tendon cells of the rats, they seemed to heal better than those cells that didn't get this compound. And that's really interesting. It is. But again, it's a rat study. And also it didn't prove that BPC 157 enhanced the Achilles tendon strength, or it didn't show that that it helped the rats heal any faster in the body. So again, isolated cells in a petri dish, again, may not be the same thing as cells in the body, whether there's a rat body or a human body. But again, it's an interesting study, but again, it has its limitations. Prior to that, in 2008, researchers, again, they did another study where they basically injected BPC 157 into the Achilles tendons of rats that they were given injuries to their Achilles tendons, and they noted that the BPC 157 basically improved what's called functional recovery of the rats. They appeared to walk better, and they showed an improved blood vessel formation as well. Again, it's a rat study. In another investigation, researchers purposely damaged the Achilles tendons of rats, and they noted that when the BPC 157 was injected into the area, as well as when it was applied topically for 2 weeks, that it helped the tendon heal faster. In fact, these researchers said it restored full function to the tendons. Now, while all these claims are very impressive, I do like to call your attention to the fact that they are rat studies. And also, when I looked at the totality of the investigations on BPC 157 and injuries, many, if not most, of the studies injected this compound. They didn't take it as a dietary supplement. We'll talk about that in a minute. But they literally injected it into the stomachs of the rats. So again, that is something to consider if you're going to be experimenting with this compound. Yes, there is some evidence that it may work when taken orally, but the majority, and maybe even also applied topically, but the majority of research does appear to involve injecting this compound. So that is the scope of the evidence for BPC 157 healing injuries. There does not yet appear to be any human research so far. Eventually there's going to be, but as of right now, there's not. So what about muscle soreness, delayed muscle soreness? And delayed muscle soreness is just that muscle pain you feel 1 or 2 days after exercise. You've experienced this yourself probably. Usually this stuff happens after we do something we're not used to. For instance, you start a new exercise program, or if you've been working out for a while on your own, you increase the weight or alter the reps, the sets you're doing, the types of exercise you're doing, etc. Anytime you do things you're not used to doing, you're likely to experience some degree of muscle soreness. Oh, and just a tip, if you want to think about this a little differently, sometimes when people experience delayed muscle soreness, they think they hurt themselves. Remember the rule of thumb when it comes to delayed muscle soreness. It usually doesn't hurt until you move or press on that area of the body. If you're sitting there and you think you have muscle soreness right now, just don't move. Odds are you won't feel any pain until you move those muscles. So that's an important distinction between, say, something more serious and also muscle soreness itself. Generally, any pain you feel at rest is not delayed muscle soreness. Delayed muscle soreness only hurts when you're not moving. So if you feel pain when you're not moving, well, then it's most likely time to go to the doctor. Now, I have seen websites discuss how BPC 157 can reduce delayed muscle soreness in people. And to those individuals, I respectfully ask, where's your evidence? I looked at clinical databases, and I can't find any human studies or even animal studies, for that matter, that noted decreased delayed muscle soreness in people who took BPC 157. So I can't say if it does or it doesn't. This would be a pretty easy investigation to do. If there's any college students listening to me right now, this would make a great thesis or dissertation topic. So food for thought if you're thinking of what you might want to do your college papers on. But as it stands right now, as I'm recording this, I can't find any evidence that it reduces delayed muscle soreness in human beings. Again, eventually we'll probably find that out, but as of right now, I can't say if it does or doesn't. Now, Switching gears a little bit, I mentioned a minute ago that one of the claims for BPC 157 is it might reduce depression. And that's an important topic, I think, to bring up for a moment because, here we're getting into the holiday season. You got Thanksgiving coming up and then Christmas is around the corner, et cetera. And I know a lot of people, they get depressed around the holidays. And, truth be told, I get that way myself from time to time around the holidays. But I have seen websites discussing how BPC might help reduce depression. So if you've heard this and you're thinking about taking it, let's talk about why they would make this claim. There is some evidence that this compound, BPC 157, might raise serotonin levels. Now, serotonin is a neurotransmitter. We make it in our brain, and interestingly, we also make it in our microbiome. So if you jump back to last week, we talked a lot about the microbiome, but it is actually made in the gut as well. But serotonin plays a role in depression, and if we could raise serotonin levels, this might make us feel better. This is actually how some medications work. Some antidepressant medications work also by raising serotonin levels. But can BPC 157 really help depression? Well, what we have to keep in mind right now is that the evidence for this compound raising serotonin levels mostly comes from laboratory animals like rats. I have yet to see any evidence that it raises serotonin levels in people. And even more than that, if I take this even further, I haven't seen any evidence that BPC 157 alleviates depression in people. Again, just because it may raise serotonin levels doesn't necessarily mean it's going to help elevate levels of depression. That's going to take human research, and right now we're not there yet. So again, depression is a big topic, especially around the holidays for a lot of people. I want to talk about that for a moment. And again, I think there are other ways to deal with depression, which I think have more evidence than this compound at this time, which again, even something as simple as exercise can help alleviate depression in many individuals. So again, might BPC 157 help? It's possible, but I think there are other ways to do it as well. Now, most of the research on this topic is on injecting the compound. Most researchers literally inject it into the bellies of rats. That said, can you take it orally? What about dietary supplements? I know there are dietary supplements of BPC 157 out there, and they make the claim that they can reduce injuries and help you heal faster, for instance. And one of the ways in which they say this works by helping improve injuries is by improving collagen production. And collagen is an important protein in tendons and ligaments. So in theory, if you can boost the production of collagen in tendons and ligaments, that makes sense that it would help the healing process. So do they actually do this? Do supplements, orally taken supplements you take by mouth, can they improve, say, your injuries if you take them as a dietary supplement? Well, as I looked into this, I did locate a rat study which appeared to show improved collagen formation and improved wound healing after, say, these rats had their skin burned, had chemical burns put on them. But again, the BPC here was not taken orally. It was actually, in this case, applied topically. And so, not to beat a dead horse, but again, this was a rat study. It was not a human study. Where's the human evidence? Where's the human evidence that dietary supplements of BPC 157 will make your tendons and ligaments heal quicker and faster and improve your strength, etc.? At this time, I can't find any evidence. I can't find any real evidence of any human study of BPC 157 oral supplements improving tendon strength or ligament strength or helping people return to their normal activities faster than if they didn't take it. People do tell me amazing things, but I got to go back to the research, and as of right now, I can't find any. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the supplements won't work, because I have seen references that oral BPC 157 can make it past the stomach and get absorbed by the body. If that's the case, then we might be able to absorb it, and that's great. But again, we are, at the end of the day, right now, limited to laboratory animal research. And then while we're on the topic of dietary supplements, how does BPC 157 stack up against, glucosamine or fish oil or chondroitin sulfate, other touted supplements to help pain and, ease, say, arthritis pain and stuff like that? Right now, again, I have not been able to find any clinical evidence that compared, say, BPC 157 to any dietary supplement. Again, hopefully, eventually that's going to change, but as of right now, I can't find any. So my words notwithstanding, I'm sure a lot of athletes are probably thinking about whether or not this is right for them. The first thing they may be wondering is BPC 157 legal in sports, real sports? You're a pro athlete, you're getting drug tested and stuff like that. So what I would say is, first thing I want you to do is, I would say don't just start taking this, willy-nilly. I'd want you to really check first with the organization who's doing your random drug testing and see what they have to say about this. I can tell you that before I recorded this episode, I did check with WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency. Didn't see anything on their website about BPC 157 before I recorded this. Interestingly, though, in the past, when I checked the WADA website, I did notice that they had a PDF document on their website called Internet Surveillance for PEDs. And in that PDF document, they did say BPC 157 was, quote, not approved for human use, unquote. That's interesting, but when I looked again just this week before I recorded this, I couldn't find that document listed. So quite possibly they're updating what they say about this compound. So again, I'll refer you back to the WADA website for more updated information on this compound. I checked also the USADA, the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency. Again, they have heard of BPC 157. They don't have an official position statement as of yet. Again, that may change in the future, but they don't have any as of yet. My guess is the lack of position on whether or not athletes can and should take BPC 157 is there really isn't any good evidence right now whether it's going to boost exercise performance. If there ever is a study that shows that BPC 157 makes people run faster, jump higher, lift heavier weights, makes them bigger, stronger, faster, as the saying goes, I'm sure they're going to issue a position stance on that. But as of right now, I didn't see anything. But again, can't say when you're going to be listening to this recording. So always check if you are going to get drug tested, whether or not this is appropriate for you or not. But as of right now, I don't see anything. But again, when you listen to this, it may be a little different. So if you're thinking about taking BPC 157 and you're wondering how much you should take, I got to tell you that I can't tell you. And I honestly would not even hazard to take a guess on how much would be best for someone to take because it's not been tested in people. Any dosages you see online about BPC 157 and human dosages are most likely extrapolated from what the rat and mice research has used. Now, you can do a conversion from animal dosage into human dosage. That's a relatively simple calculation to make. You can do this, and that's probably where some of these online dosages I'm seeing are coming from. But my position is until you actually test it in people, I really feel that any dosages you see online are, basically taking a stab in the dark. Again, we're not rats, we're not mice, we're not cells in a petri dish. We're human beings and, we're different from these things. So again, there are these dosages out there that if you search, you'll find them. They may be correct, they may not be correct. I can't say. I'm a human guy. I'm a meat and potatoes guy. You got to show it to me in humans that it actually does what they say it does. So again, the dosages you see, they may be correct, they may not be correct. Again, we got to look for more research in people. So if we switch gears for a minute, are there any side effects to BPC 157? Well, again, I keep, not to beat a dead horse, but again, there really aren't any human studies. And so I can't per se say that there are or are not any side effects to taking BPC 157. So basically, I just got a couple of general ideas if you're considering whether you're going to be taking this or not. So let me just go through the list. If you're going to be injecting this stuff, which I personally don't recommend, if you're going to do it, I would say investigate who you're doing business first. Investigate that company. And when I looked into this, the FDA has issued at least one warning letter to a compounding pharmacy that made BPC 157 and other compounds, and they issued the warning letter for unsanitary conditions. So again, what I would say is if you're going to be buying this from some company, maybe get on the internet and just do an online search for FDA plus the pharmacy or company you're going to be maybe purchasing this product from, and see what you see. Again, that's a quick way to see if the FDA ever wrote them a letter or anything like that. Also, again, we want to investigate the company because we want to make sure you're getting the real deal and maybe not a vial of water or a vial of olive oil. Who knows what is out there. So again, only deal, and only deal with companies that you trust and you've thoroughly investigated. Now, if you are going to take this compound, I would suggest that whether you're going to inject it or take it as a dietary supplement, it's generally good to start, usually with less than is recommended for the first week, just to see how you respond. I think it's something I normally say with dietary supplements because I think it's important. Sometimes when you take a supplement, they'll say recommended dosage, 2 tablets a day, 3 times a week or something like that. Whatever they say, start with less because everybody's a little different when it comes to dietary supplements. So I like starting with the least possible for the first week. Let's just see what happens and then slowly titrate up to what they feel is best for you. So again, whether it's injecting or whether you're taking something as a dietary supplement, let's start with less and let's see what happens first. If there is going to be any side effects, by taking less, you're minimizing those side effects. And like everybody, if you're a woman, you're pregnant, you're breastfeeding, absolutely speak to your doctor before taking BPC 157. Again, I can't find any people research, but as a rule, generally you probably don't want to be taking a lot of stuff like this if you're pregnant or breastfeeding because we don't know what happens. And by the same token, if you're taking any medicine whatsoever, speak to your doctor or pharmacist. Again, lack of human research means we may not know what the interactions with medications might be, if there are any medications. There may not be, or there may be. Again, we'll know more as more research is done. Just to be safe, I would also throw out that if you're having any surgery, you probably want to stop taking it at least 2 weeks before surgery. And that's just because a lot of dietary supplements out there tend to have a blood thinning effect. And so I can't say if BPC 157 has a blood thinning effect or not. It may or may not. Just be safe. Speak to your doctor, pharmacist if you really want to know and for the most up-to-date information. But as a rule, I like to get off all supplements for at least 2 weeks before surgery, just in case. Now, one of the ways in which BPC 157 is touted to work is by improving blood vessel growth. And that's technically called angiogenesis, the formation of new blood vessels. And that kind of makes sense. If it worked by improving blood vessels, blood vessels bring oxygen and vitamins and minerals and nutrients to the injured area. So it makes sense that if it was going to work, helping blood vessel growth might be one way in which it did work. And so that's interesting. But based on that, I have to ask the question, what does that mean for somebody who may have cancer? Remember, cancer needs a blood supply to grow also. So does BPC 157 cause cancer? Again, I can't say either way because I've not seen any human cancer studies. But what I would say is if you have cancer, if you're going through cancer therapy, again, I think this is something to speak to an oncologist about. My hope is that oncologists, cancer doctors have heard of, they definitely know about angiogenesis, and hopefully they've heard of BPC 157, and they hopefully will be able to give you the most up-to-date information. Again, I have no evidence that it causes cancer or not, but again, I want to be as safe as I possibly can and just throw this out to you just in case anybody's listening to me who may have cancer is consider taking this compound. Again, it may be fine, it may not be fine. Let's let your physician make that call. So at the end of the day, does BPC 157 work or not? Well, the research on this pleiotropic compound, there's that word again, is very interesting. But I have to say, in my opinion, I think it's preliminary. In spite of the fact that this thing has been around since the 1990s, I can't find any human research on it. We're not rats, we're not mice, we're definitely not cells isolated in a petri dish. So I personally want to see human research, and I don't know why the research on BPC 157 appears to be stalled at the laboratory animal stage. Now, lack of human research does not mean it doesn't work. It might. For all I know, it might be everything people are claiming it to be. But Amazing claims require amazing evidence. And for me, that means human clinical evidence. So let's see what the future holds. Hopefully my little review of BPC 157 helped you better understand it better. If you've tried this stuff, drop me an email. I'm curious to see what happened or what didn't happen if you tried it. I've definitely got my eyes peeled for human research, and when it comes out, I'll most likely do another video or blog review on my websites about this topic as well. So that's all I got for you. This is actually going to be a short episode because I'm basically limited by what I see, and I don't see a lot of human research right now, but hopefully my words have sparked some enterprising college student or researcher to look at this stuff more intensely, because it is very intriguing. So that's all I got for you, except for the last part of this episode, which is the quote of the week, which comes from Salvador Dali, the guy who did that melting clock painting that we've probably all seen at one point or another. He said, "Have no fear of perfection. You'll never reach it." Very good words that I think all of us, me included, should take to heart. Until next time, gang, I'm Joe Cannon. Go out, have a great day, and don't forget to make a difference where you can.